I had an individual once who treated their myasthenia with kale shakes.
Like the plant? Kale?
Yeah. And like super high dose D3. This is not medical advice, by the way.
How did that work out?
Not good. Not
They
good.
gave themselves gastroenteritis.
It was, well, this individual ended up spending a fair amount of time in the hospital.
Yeah.
And this was actually a person I felt really bad for because they got
pants.
kind of stuck in this like stasis realm where like they just couldn't get off the ventilator. And I forget, so when we got that person off the ventilator, they were on BiPAP a lot. And this was a long time ago when I worked nights somewhere else, not here. And I was like, it was like 5 a.m. He's like, I just want to go outside and see the sunrise. I'm like, all right.
Walk out there.
Well, if you could make it. No, I was like, all right. So I threw him into a wheelchair and I took him outside.
Hey, that was a good thing for you to do.
We made it to the door and we got to watch the sun for about 2 minutes. And I was like, we got to go.
Yeah.
We got to go. We got to go back inside.
Should we use that to segue into
The
some things
NIF.
that we actually care about in the ICU
The lungs.
management of this? Is when is this going to potentially result in respiratory failure, and when do we intervene on such?
Right. Well, as the resident respiratory therapist, would you like to go over the negative inspiratory force measurements?
Yeah, and the FEC.
And I want you to beat down why this is so important, because the amount of times that I'm like, I don't see a NIF in the chart.
Yes. I think it, to your point, is important for the clinician who's caring for them and for the other staff and the other consultants that are following along. However, I do think that from a respiratory standpoint and now as a critical care provider, I don't think that anything trumps your clinical gestalt.
Gestalt. We'd be goosing it. That's the next t-shirt. It's going to be a goose that says your clinical gestalt.
Your clinical impression of the patient and how they look from the door, how they look on exam. Do they have accessory muscle use? Are they tachypnic? Are they hypopnic? Are they just like, hypoventilating like crazy? Everything that we do on a regular daily basis to assess someone's need for intubation, mechanical ventilation. Are they having bulbar symptoms? Are they able to phonate? What's their swallow look like? Can they cough? Can they clear secretions? Can they lift their head off the pillow? Like all the stuff we do on a daily basis. So, because I know that you have also seen it as well. Now, admittedly, I can't remember if this was an MG or a GB patient that I had, but, throughout the course of their maneuvers that we were doing them to assess respiratory strength and function, those looked like absolute garbage, but the patient continued to look fairly clinically stable. And we did not proceed to intubation and mechanical ventilation purely based off of those values.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying that they're not important, but I also don't want it to come in to play that we say, oh, their NIF was negative 15, like get the intubation box ready and we're intubating this patient now.
Yeah.
Right?
No, that's actually a really good point. I'm going to move this for a second because I'm going to get intimate for a second. Listen to me. We've said this before. We don't make decisions on single data points, and definitely not just numbers. You hear me?
As a father, I just
and we're back.
I feel like a little bit of guilt, and I shouldn't even anything. It's like I'm sorry.
Hold on, one more point.
Yeah.
Listen to me. If you have a patient that's got Guillain-Barré syndrome, you better know what the NIF is.
Okay, so NIF stands for negative inspiratory force. And the best way that you can think about this, if you have never performed one or seen one done, is my kids like to get Brahms after church on Sundays, right? And
Let's go, Dad of the Year. Let's go.
Killing it.
Well, I want Brahms now.
I also don't want to go home and make lunch after we've been at church. We get there early and like, okay, let's just get you some lunch.
Dude, if you go to church, you have to go out afterwards.
It's obligatory.
That's it. That's what you do.
Yeah. So they'll get a kid's meal and it comes with a shake, right? Man, they be making them shakes thick. Okay, I'm talking. So I have to ask them to make the shakes kind of thin for the kids. But if you've ever gotten a thick milkshake and you've tried to suck up some of that milkshake and you are just giving it all you got and it's not coming up the straw, that's what it's like to do a NIF. So we are assessing your negative inspiratory force.
Negative.
So they will give you a mouthpiece. There's some type of a manometer with an occlusion device. They'll tell you to suck in as hard as you can.
Mm-hmm.
They will occlude it. That occludes, the inlet for the air to flow, and they're going to measure on a scale of, is it millimeters of mercury? I would presume
You're
so.
a respiratory therapist. Why are you asking me?
A numeric number essentially to
the
the
machine
strength.
looks like a Game Boy.
No, that's
with
for
handles.
the FVC.
Oh yeah, that thing. Never mind.
This is just a little like manometer type deal, and they'll measure it. It will give you a number. So normally, I mean, me and you sitting here, we should be able to pull a NIF of like negative 60, probably, you know, depending on how hard you go.
I could do 65, probably.
I could probably do 67.
100.
Oh. So anyways, the point being that once that NIF falls below negative 30, then we're getting worried about respiratory muscle involvement, diaphragmatic function, that type of thing. So anything below 30 on that point, you're starting to become concerned.
Your TBH score goes up a little bit.
Yes, it does. Little clinch.
Yeah, maybe like 2 points, right?
Yeah.
Not super bad.
Nothing bad.
I'd said, someone commented on a TikTok, Luke, and he said something about, I don't remember what his exact comment was, and I was like, TBH score greater than 10 equals Jesus take the wheel.
Oh, yeah. So in conjunction with the NIF, we're often going to perform or an FVC as well. I don't really see a utility in having both values. I would just pick one or the other. Truthfully, when we're talking about this as a former RT, I kind of prefer the FVC because the NIF can be both patient dependent and provider dependent, or whoever is administering the test.
I was going to bring that up.
Well, too late. I'm bringing it up now.
Well, I do remember that case we had. This had to be a year ago at this point.
Were you just getting very discordant numbers?
Where they were like, this patient looked clinically terrible, and they're like, their NIF's like 45.
And you're like, no.
I'm like,
So
that can't be.
that's why we look at the patient.
Yeah.
Right. But the NIF can just vary widely based off of who's administering the test and who's performing. I mean, if you wake somebody up in the middle of the night to do a NIF,
Right.
At 2 a.m.,
You got to have good patient
they may
effort.
not perform that test very well, and then it looks like you got in, and we shouldn't be running it in there with the intubation box.
Right.
So an FVC is you're taking a normal tidal breath and you're blasting it out as hard as you can. You can get an FEV1 from that, but then also your forced vital capacity, almost kind of like a sigh breath. I think that this is a little bit more standardized as far as the administration technique, and it does require obviously patient effort, but it's not as patient effort dependent as a NIF.
Right.
So, exhalation in the respiratory cycle should normally be a passive process. We're not engaging any muscles to do so. But if you're going to exhale forcefully, you do have to engage your respiratory muscles. Yeah. And so by checking that, so a normal FVC, we should have like 60 mLs per kg, something like that. So anytime the NIF the FVC falls below, again, that 30. So it's nice because you can think 30 on both sides, a NIF less than negative 30, or an FVC less than 30 mLs per kg, then we're getting concerned about respiratory function.
Yeah. And like you said, this is a data point, like anything. And this is why it's important to know them. And when I say that, don't just know the one that was done this morning. I want you to know what yesterday's was and what the trend is.
I put my hand up so they could see that. That is the most important part. That's why we're tracking these numbers, is not because we're going to make a decision based off of a singular value, but that we have data points to trend. And then you can see, okay, they look okay now, but the NIF has gone down 15 points over the last 24 hours. Should we consider supporting with a non-invasive now, or should we just be on lookout that, in the preceding 12 to 24 hours that this may progress further and we need to be ready for intubation?